Hanging out with us, Shams. Let's start there. James Harden, where do things stand right now on his trade demand, his trade requests?
Yeah, so James Harden is in Houston. He's complying with the NBA's coronavirus testing protocols. And as of right now, the expectation around the team, around James Harden, is that he will remain professional. But he's going to continue to let the Rockets know that when you guys are ready for a move, I mean, I'm ready. And so the only people that can make a transaction right now are the Rockets in terms of being able to pull the trigger on a trade. He's got 2 years guaranteed left on his deal, and we don't usually see superstar franchise cornerstones get traded with 2 years left on their deal. Even if they ask out, those deals usually happen with 1 year left on their deal. But James Harden has made it clear he wants a move to a contending team, and he's made it known these four teams he'd prefer a trade to. I think at the top of that list are the Sixers and the Nets, and then two other East contenders in Milwaukee and Miami. I think the bottom line here is that James Harden has made it known he wants to be on a winning, contending team elsewhere.
Yeah, ideally out east, not have to go through LeBron. Smart. So you're right. Usually it's only with 1 year left on a deal, which is why guys can kind of direct where they go to a degree, because teams don't want to give up a ton for a player that's going to walk in a year. Because James has 2 years left, what are you hearing about teams that might not be on his list that might say he's not going to retire? We want James Harden. He's going to be, we're going to have the asset for 2 seasons. Is there a market for him outside of the teams that he's listed?
I think potentially, but in a lot of ways, a lot of people expected that the Nets and the Sixers would be the two front-running teams throughout this process. And then now you're starting to see it, open up a little bit to Milwaukee, to Miami. There's always, Nick, a team that comes out of nowhere, right, that starts to make a play.
Yep.
And who knows what develops as the year goes on. I think a lot of this, and that's why Houston is going to, try to prolong this as much as possible, because right now the offers that are on the table just don't fit their criteria for a James Harden trade. And they want an all-star caliber player, a young start type of guy, along with another rotation player, as well as draft picks. And that offer just is not on the table. So if you're them, do you wait out on Philadelphia to make Ben Simmons available? If they ever do, do you wait for another offer elsewhere from a team that might not be in the picture? Maybe like a Boston, a Denver. I haven't gotten the sense that either of those teams is in the mix right now. So that's why more and more this looks like it's going to be something that goes into the year, depending on how James Harden plays this, depending on how how he goes about his business, how professional he stays. Does he play in the games? Does he sit out here and there? At the end of the day, he's made it clear he feels like he's exhausted winning a title, championship contending in Houston. He wants to go elsewhere to accomplish a championship at the age of 31 in his prime years, as he still has a few of those left.
Okay, Sean. So the seat I occupy on this show is the player's perspective. Okay, so I'm always going to take that angle. If I'm James Harden, right, and you're saying, and you said it a few times already, oh, he's going to move accordingly and he's going to be professional. So what does that really mean? Because this guy has been in Vegas, he's hanging out with little baby, he's not talking to ownership, he's only talking to his assistant coach, he's not even really talking to the head coach. So how messy is this situation? You just said this could go into the season. How messy is this situation right now?
I think from the outside perspective, it doesn't look totally professional. But in terms of those who know James Harden and the way he's operated around that franchise over the course of his 8 years there, I mean, this is, James Harden going to a city for, 2, 3, 4 days at a time and then coming back and really being on his own time schedule. That's not unknown for him, for this franchise, for a couple other players around the league. Like some guys move this way, and James Harden has operated in this fashion. Houston's allowed him to operate in this fashion. But at the end of the day, he's taken days to himself to go on quick trips, and then he's come back and he's put up 50-point triple-doubles. So how much can we really live with James Harden? As long as he continues to produce at that level, I think Houston's been like, listen, we understand the dynamic that we have here as long as we produce. And James Harden, if anything, you have to give him this. He's produced at a high level. He's always been durable. He's always been on the floor. He's always played his games, played heavy minutes, has played through injury. So James Harden, for the most part, he's done everything you can ask for as just on the court NBA player.
Shams, how do you think the trade speculation is reverberating to the trade targets? So we hear like, oh, maybe Miami will give up Tyler Hero. Oh, maybe it's a Michael Porter Jr. thing. Maybe it's if Ben and Embiid don't work. And then yesterday you wrote like, Houston's not interested unless they're getting KD or Kyrie. And I think KD is locked in. Well, then it's like, oh, maybe Kyrie goes. And Steve Nash was asked about Harden. So how do you think it's reverberating for those other teams knowing that this specter of a Harden trade is out there?
I mean, that's not something those teams want to deal with, especially when you're looking at Brooklyn and Miami. I mean, Milwaukee, too. I mean, all these teams that are on his preferred list, these are teams that have contending aspirations. They don't want, if you're looking at it from a team perspective, they don't want their players' names to be out there in trade talks. But there haven't been, you look at Philly. They have yet to make Ben Simmons or Joel Embiid available at any trade talks. They want to see how those two cornerstones look around bevy of shooters that Daryl Morey brought in, Dwight Howard, Doc Rivers, the new coach. Miami, same thing. They want to, they're not trying to move either Bam Adebayo or Jimmy Butler. The Milwaukee Bucks seem set. They made their big move this offseason, getting Drew Holiday. So some of these teams, they've made their moves. And so could things change as the year goes on? Could they then look at their team, see how the team develops? I think that's what Houston is weighing. I think Houston in a perfect world would still want to see how James Harden fits with John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins, Christian Wood, and see if this team can win and compete at a high level in the Western Conference. But at the end of the day, I think James Harden has made it clear he feels like he's exhausted championship contention there and wants to go elsewhere.
All right, Shams, I want to take a turn, talk to you a little about Paul George. Yesterday, he signed the 5-year, $226 million extension with the Clippers. He said after signing, I owe them a trophy. How about just starting by showing up in the playoffs, Paul? So, Shams, what does the deal mean for Kawhi's future with the Clippers?
Yeah, so Paul George signing this 4-year, $170 million extension, I think just signifies, solidifies his future with the Clippers. He's wanted to be there long term the moment he got there. And for Kawhi Leonard, the plan always is these two guys leading this franchise for years to come. Obviously, Kawhi Leonard signed a 2+1 contract in free agency in 2019 to align himself with Paul George's deal, and now Paul George has re-signed. Kawhi Leonard is not eligible for an extension right now, so he will be a free agent most likely with this player option next year. And as long as I think the Clippers take care of business, they feel confident that they're in a good place with Kawhi Leonard, and that has been the intention. That is why he went back home to L.A., to really put down roots there with that franchise, with that organization. Again, we have a full year to play out with Ty Lue at the helm now, a new coaching staff, different players with Serge Ibaka in the mix now. They need to perform at a much higher level than they did last year.
Last one, and this is going to sound a little odd, but what does Paul George's extension mean for Paul George's future with the Clippers? Because I know that he can't be, he's not eligible to be traded now that he signed this until after this year's deadline. But if they don't win the title and this next year looks anything like this past year, they now have still a really, really good player, a top 20 player in this league, locked up for 4 more seasons. Do you think part of their thinking in giving him this deal is hopefully it works, and if it doesn't, we have what is a really attractive asset to potentially trade elsewhere to try to reboot the thing around Kawhi?
I mean, I think that just goes into team building as far as, listen, you try to bring guys back, especially star players back on multi-year deals, and the goal is for it to work out, right? I mean, you never know how things play out. I think their intention now with this contract is for him to be a Clipper for the rest of his career, to retire a Clipper. I don't think they're going into it with the intention of trading him because I don't think they expect things to go as bad. So we saw this past year when they didn't win at the highest level, right? They got rid of Doc Rivers. They changed their roster dynamic, letting Montrezl Harrell walk as a free agent, signing Serge Ibaka. So I mean, I guess never say never, Nick, especially in the NBA. But I think their intent here is for Paul George to be a Clipper the rest of his career.
Shams, thanks so much for hanging out with us this morning. Great insights. Great to have you on.
Great job, man.
We
Thank
got to
you.
take a turn now.
Text me,
Talk some
Sean.
football on the other
Text
side.
me.
And don't text him. You're going to get a barrage of